Haas are in serious trouble, and I'm not talking about the prospect of finishing last in the 2023 Constructors' Championship. I'm also talking about 2024 as well. So here's the thing. Haas, who have kind of been riding on the coattails of successes they had earlier on in the season, haven't done so well for basically the mid towards the end of the season, and now they are kind of paying the price. They've fallen to the bottom of the Constructors' Championship, and I'm not sure that there is a way out for them now. And yeah, you could argue rightly so. AlphaTauri and Alfa Romeo have just been doing a better job than they had for most of the season, and now Haas are kind of paying the price. Not only does finishing bottom of the Constructors means less prize money, it also means that you are kind of less attractive as a team to try and hire those skilled people that you need on board to build you a better car. Honestly, the knock-on effects are huge, and this could potentially be disastrous for their 2024 car. Now, don't get me wrong, that Haas car in Hulkenberg's hands is quick, but only over one lap. Over a race distance, it chews up its tyres more than any other car on the grid, and it has been costing them dearly. How many times now have we seen Hulk get into Q3, run comfortably about 9th or 10th, and then once the tyre wear and pit stop starts to kick in, he's dropping back down then to 17th position. It happens a lot this season. And for Hulk, this has got to be absolutely infuriating, and I'm talking about head against the wall infuriating. Kevin Magnussen did get a point in Singapore recently, but he has mostly been anonymous this season. Now Haas have decided to keep him on with Hulkenberg to try and create some stability in a team which otherwise has had a very inconsistent and troubled time with their driver lineup. But the question right now, is this the best they could do? Otherwise, keep Hulkenberg, but someone get him a chiropractor, because he has been carrying Haas on his back the whole season. But apart from Kevin Magnussen, who else could they really get? Perhaps let me know in the comments if they should have replaced Magnussen for 2024. And while you're at it, please subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date with any new content. But here's the thing, Haas only had a decent car at the start of the year because they began work on it fairly early on in the 2022 season. They halted work on the 2022 car mid-season, put everything behind the new one, and they got the jump on their rivals. I honestly thought at the start of this season Haas might finally have a tidy and quick little car, and to a certain degree they did. They managed to get a nice little haul of 8 points out of 5 races, and things were finally looking good, and Haas might finally be in business. But unfortunately for Haas, this didn't last. All the teams around them just have more resources, more money, and just more clout to outdevelop them, and Haas just kind of fell behind. Just look at McLaren's turnaround this year, or even Mercedes. No way could Haas pull off something like that in their current state. Günther Steiner even admitted that their current car, the VF23, was flawed, and they have in fact slowed the development of it now to try and focus more effort towards the 2024 car. You know, you can only polish a turd for so long, but actually they did try some new Red Bull-esque style updates for the Austin Grand Prix, and that didn't work. So right now the best they can hope for to get some decent points is to hope for an absolute catastrophe of a race, which kind of doesn't really happen anymore, or even a wet race where there's loads of retirements. And that doesn't really happen anymore either. So with the way that this year has been going, they have been trying to put more focus towards the 2024 car. But with the capacity of Haas, I don't see how they can effectively develop one car and build another brand new one simultaneously. Due to the small size of Haas, it kind of has to be one or the other. Now, I'm not engineering minded, but because they use the Ferrari gearbox and suspension, this doesn't offer them the same freedoms as other teams have when it comes to designing the car. Yeah, okay, using parts from other teams saves money, but they've created parameters for themselves that they have to act in, and you kind of think for a designer, this has got to be incredibly frustrating. So the concept for next year's car will be going down a completely different direction to that of this year's car, focusing on an aero theory called downwash, which has been used to great effect by Red Bull this year. So from what I'm aware, downwash is apparently using the side pods to guide the air down into a channel between the wheel and the bodywork itself, I think. Plus, they are the smallest team on the grid in terms of staff, and they are divided between 3 locations in the UK, USA, and Italy. And this is simply a case of divide and don't conquer. Now, 2024 looks like it is going to be a seriously competitive year, with teams like Williams and AlphaTauri, or whatever they become, looking to join the midfield fight again. And this leaves 2 teams that I don't think are going to make this same sort of leap. This is Haas and Sauber, as Alfa Romeo will be leaving them next year. And between Haas and Sauber, I think they will both be fighting for 9th place in the Constructors' Championship next year. Sauber, who are a great name, not just in Formula One, but motorsport in general, they've got just so much more weight than Haas, and they've also got this incoming deal from Audi, so yeah, for Haas, it's a tall order next year, honestly. And I don't see many teams really falling down into the reach of Haas next year. Like, let's say someone like Williams or Alpine completely balls it up at the start of the year and arrives to Bahrain with a terrible car. They can develop their way out of trouble, which unfortunately Haas kind of can't. Now, with 2024 in mind, the other piece of the puzzle is their driver lineup, and they've been very conservative this year, and I think perhaps slightly too conservative. And you really can't blame them. The amount of trouble they've had with drivers of recent years has caused a lot of trauma for them, and they finally just want some stability on the driver front. You know, they're probably asking themselves, are Hulk and K-Mag crashing cars at the same rate as Mazepin, Mick Schumacher and Grosjean? No? Oh, great. Okay, perfect. We'll keep them signed on then. I mean, yeah, Haas could have signed a young and up-and-coming driver or loaned someone in from Ferrari perhaps, but this just creates another variable, and this is a variable that they don't need right now. You know, Haas just wants some peace and quiet in terms of its driver lineup, and I think what it has right now is probably the best driver lineup Haas have ever had. And if you look at it like that, it does not say some good things about previous years. Hulkenberg has been absolutely driving his socks off, and he's made regular appearances in Q3 this year, but unfortunately that qualifying pace just has not translated to the race, and he has regularly fallen out of the points. He bravely fought in Mexico to hang on to his 10th position, but with the state of his tyres, he just couldn't hold on anymore, and he just got swallowed up by the train of cars that were following him. I've always rated Hulkenberg, and he is a great asset for Haas, but you've got to wonder, how long can they keep hold of him? It appears that a Hulk to Sauber move in 2024 was blocked by Günther Steiner, and he activated some clause in his contract for 2024. So the signs of Hulk wanting out of the team are already there. Perhaps the Haas he finds himself in now is not the Haas that he kind of signed up for. And given he has knowledge to bring in from Sauber, Renault, Racing Point, Aston Martin, Haas should be doing absolutely everything they can to keep him on board. Because guess what, folks? I'm going to say this, Hulkenberg is the best driver Haas have ever had. But no matter how high Hulkenberg or K-Mag qualify, they are always shot down because of how their car chews up the tyres. And also not to mention some of the dodgy strategies the team uses, but ultimately it has cost Haas a shed loads of points this year. You know, Haas followed a certain design philosophy for 2023 that gave them a car that was quick over one lap, but had awful tyre degradation. But with them now going down a different design path for 2024, it's going to be very interesting to see what turns up for them in Bahrain. Haas, lads, don't aim for the moon, just build an average car that's just nice to its tyres, please. Because this is it, the tyre wear problems are the ultimate cause for Haas winding up in 10th place in the Constructors' Championship this year. Now, the prize money for finishing 10th is $60 million. It's a nice tidy amount, keeps the lights on and the toilet flushing, but when you consider 9th place is $69 million and 8th is $78 million, that's a big difference. So you can see now that Haas are now dealing with the prospect of being $18 million lighter than they were aiming for at the start of the season. Now, they have a proper title sponsor from MoneyGram, a company that you've actually heard of, which is a huge bonus for them. And with their potential competitor Sauber, they've got Alfa Romeo pulling away from them next year, and they haven't got any kind of major backing announced yet, so it's pretty uncertain how things are looking from their front. So I guess to a degree Haas has some advantage over them there. So moving ahead then, let's say that Haas finish 2023 in 10th place and begin next year with a car that isn't at its best because of things like prize money losses and having to simultaneously develop the car at the same time as running this year's car. You know, what happens to the team then? I have a feeling for next year we are going to see Haas have a repeat of their 2023 season, except without the early point scoring at the start of the season and without the Q3 appearances as well. And that, I think, is a shame, because I think their current car, the VF23, is the absolute best the Haas team could muster, having started the development of this car very, very early on, and without the massive financial support and backing, from any kind of external factors. Perhaps Haas need to put up a big for sale sign at the factory, or even a help wanted notice, because with all these new manufacturers entering the sport in 2026, they can't afford to be alone when these new regulations come in. Perhaps now that Sauber is going to be swallowed up by Audi and is no longer going to be under the influence of Maranello, Haas could perhaps even get into bed even further with Ferrari and get some sort of manufacturer backing that way. They could even rename the team as well. Lancia F1, Martini sponsorship. It's just something too perfect to be real. Now, it would be a great shame to see two names such as Sauber and Haas finish at the back of the grid in 2024. However, if Sauber finish last, they've got Audi to kind of scoop them up and save the day. They don't really kind of have to worry about anything. But for Haas, this would be 2 seasons in a row for them, and that could spell serious trouble. And you do wonder, how long can they continue before Gene Haas loses his patience and pulls the plug completely? So yeah, it's an unfair world, and Haas, they're really kind of struggling, but I think 2024 and maybe even 25 as well is kind of just going to be about survival for them. And actually, for the most of their existence so far, it has always been about survival for them. So there isn't really any change there, I guess. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you leave a like if you enjoyed the content. I'm Paul, and many thanks for watching.